Hi everyone. So is everyone ready now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Let's see, yeah. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our panel discussion titled Gender Equality in University, Equal Opportunity or Hidden Bias. Today, we will explore whether university truly provide equal opportunities for all genders or whether there are still some hidden biases that exist in university culture. Although higher education has become more accessible and more women are participating in universities today, gender-related challenges may still appear, such as in leadership opportunity or even social expectation. According to a research by Morley Lewis, universities often promote equality and inclusivity through policies and programs, but there are still some hidden forms of bias that influence students' and educators' experience. These raise an important question. Are universities achieving true gender equality, or are these still invisible barriers affecting opportunities? To discuss this issue, we have our panelists who will share different perspectives regarding gender equality in higher education. Gender inequality may begin before students enter university. Different expectations placed on men and women, especially regarding family responsibility, time, confidence, and also participation. So, Mr. Ramzi, we know that university usually focus on academic equality, but should they also consider students' personal circumstances in order to create a good support system?
All right. Thank you to our moderator. Good day to the panel and everyone present. Yes, I really think university should look at the students' personal life too, not just their grades. Giving everyone the same exam or the same class time looks fair, but it's hard for students who have heavy family duties at home. If the university thinks all students have 24 hours of free time just to study, it's not fair for those who need to take care of their family. So, instead of just giving normal academic help, universities should give practical solutions. For example, they can make class schedules more flexible or maybe provide recorded lectures so students who miss morning classes can catch up later. Having a childcare center on campus would also help a lot. Basically, universities need to understand that every student has a different situation at home and the support system should help them based on that. As a panelist, when we discuss gender equality in universities, we often look at total enrollment numbers and assume everything is fair. However, there is a massive hidden bias root in traditional expectations and domestic responsibilities that female students carry before they even step into a classroom. To back this up, I reference a solid peer-reviewed study by Saad and Muhammad. Their research highlights a harsh reality married female students are constantly struggling to balance heavy university workloads with traditional domestic expectations, such as cooking, such as cleaning, and also caregiving. The numbers in this study speak for themselves and are honestly quite alarming. According to the data, 43.85% of female students frequently arrive late to the classes simply because they must finish their housework first. On top of that, 43.34% of them do not have enough time to study or complete their academic assignments at home. This clearly proves that male and female students do not start from the same line. While a male student might look at equal enrollment and see a level playing field, a female student is often already exhausted and mentally drained from housework burdens before her classes even begin. If we ignore these hidden, systematic domestic pressures, we are merely covering up a deep-seated cultural bias that heavily disadvantages women in higher education. So thank you, and back to you, moderator.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ramzi. We can see that gender inequality is not always about direct restriction or lack of access, but sometimes it begins with those circumstances that different students experience even before entering university. Well, now let's look from another aspect. Those choices that students make, whether those choices are truly free from social expectation. Looking at modern university today, students appears to have equal freedom to apply for any course they desire. However, we still observe significant gender gaps in certain fields of study. For example, for engineering course, men are expected to enter it, and for some courses such as nursing, usually are expected for female students. So, Miss Aina, why do you think this gap still exists despite having equal access to the education?
All right. Thank you to our moderator for raising such a crucial question. A very good day to everyone. As a panelist focusing on the intersection of academic courses and gender stereotypes, I would like to challenge us to look beneath the surface of what we call equal opportunities. The ultimate question we must ask ourselves is this academic gender gap truly a matter of free personal choice, or is it driven by something more profound? The reality is that implicit biases and deeply ingrained cultural expectation continue to segregate students into historically gendered disciplines. This phenomenon directly challenges the every notion of true equality in higher education today. To substantiate this argument, I would like to draw upon an objective, data-driven, peer-reviewed study by Cundiff published in the Journal of Sex Roles. Their research specifically examined how implicit gender stereotypes, the unconscious mental links that associate men with size and women with caregiving, actively affect the measures that college students choose. Utilizing the implicit association test, the researchers discovered a striking truth. The academic gender gap mostly stems from this hidden bias rather than a lack of actual, tangible opportunities within the university. The study highlights a clear divergence between two groups of women. The first group, women who chose female dominated majors such as nursing and education, typically hold much stronger implicit stereotypes that align with their traditional career identity. On the flip side, women who successfully enter science, technology, engineering, and mathematics STEM fields show significantly weaker ties to these traditional gender roles. Based on this empirical evidence, it becomes undeniably clear that the low underrepresentation of women in STEM, or for that matter, men in heat fields, is not just a simple byproduct of personal choice. Instead, it is the direct result of subtle, systemic pressures. These hidden cognitive biases operate exactly like invisible barriers within our higher education system. Therefore, universities cannot afford to remain passive. Simply offering equal access and open enrollment is not enough if institutions do not actively address the underlying stereotypes that students carry with them. To break this deep-seated cultural connection, the campus environment must provide continuous exposure to counter stereotypical role model, actively showcasing female professors in STEM or male educators in early childhood fields will play a pivotal role in reshaping how students perceive their own true academic potential. To conclude my points for this round, this evidence brings us right back to the core of our panel debate today. Do modern universities genuinely offer equal opportunities, or do they merely mask a long-standing cultural bias? With that, I hand the floor back to the moderator. Thank you.
We can see from Ms. Anna's points, it highlights that equality is not only whether opportunities are available for everyone, but it also about the cultural factors and the stereotypes that influence the decision that the student makes. However, even after students enter university and choose their field, another question remains. Do they experience the same level of support and recognition once they are inside the learning environment? Even without the obvious discrimination, there are still some unconscious bias that can influence participation, recognition, and also interaction between students and lecturer. So, Ms. Christina, what are some examples of hidden gender biases that may happen in university classroom?
Everyone, thank you to the moderator and everyone here. So today I will be talking about our topic, gender equality in university. And honestly, when we hear gender equality, most of us probably think like, isn't everything already equal? Like we all in the same classes, same system, and same opportunities, right? But actually not really. So I want to focus on something that people don't really notice, which is hidden bias, especially coming from lecturers. So based on the article I read, this kind of bias is not obvious. It's not something that people do on purpose. It's very subtle. It's very like a small action that seems normal, but actually make a difference over time. For example, in class, lecturers might unconsciously give more attention to male students. Like they might call on them more often, ask them harder question, or even respond to more to their answer. And for female students, sometimes they get less attention, or they only be given an easier question. At first, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but imagine if this keep happening every day, every classes again and again, it slowly can create a gap. Then there is also an issue of expectation. Sometimes lecturers assume that male students are more confident and more outspoken, and for female students are seen as more quiet and more careful. So because of this expectation, they started to treating student differently without even realizing it. Like a male student might be encouraged to speak up more even if his answer isn't perfect, and for female student might not get the same push. So over time, the female student might start to thinking like maybe I shouldn't talk too much, and that's where the problem begins because this kind of environment affects confidence. Students who always get attention, they become more confident, more active, and more willing to participate. But for students who often overlook, they might start to adapting themselves. They become more quiet, less motivated, and slowly disconnect from the class. So even though everyone technically in the same classroom, the experience is actually not equal. So that's why I because it's clearly show how small teaching behavior can actually lead to a bigger issue like the gender inequality. So what can we do about this? First, lecturers need to be more aware of how they interact with students. Simple things like giving equal chances to everyone to answer question or encouraging everyone to participate can make a big difference. Second, students themselves need to be more confident. Even if we feel like overlooked, we should still try to speak up. And lastly, university also should play a big role by maybe creating more awareness about gender bias and especially through training or discussion like this. So to conclude, gender equality is not just about having the same opportunities on paper. It's also about how students are treated in everyday situations. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Well, that is a very eye-opening insight. We never realized that the problems sometimes come from the lecture itself. Yeah, I agree with you that sometimes it happens through those small interaction, assumption, or maybe differences in how students are treated and recognized within the university environment. Well, this brings us to another important aspect of gender equality, which arouses another question for my next panelist. How the same action or behavior may be interpreted differently depending on a person's gender. This is often called double standard. So, Mr. Zikri, do you think male and female students are judged differently for displaying the same behavior or characteristic in university? For example, are qualities such as confidence, leadership, or being outspoken is perceived differently depending on the gender?
Moderator, I'm greeting all the panelists. So this question is closely related to the issue of double standards in behavior, which is one of the hidden challenges in achieving gender equality in universities. When we talk about gender equality, many people focus on whether male and female students receive the same opportunities. However, equality is not only about opportunities. It is also about whether people are treated fairly and judged equally regardless of their gender. Double standards happen when the same behavior receives different reaction depending on whether it is shown by a male or female student. In simple words, an action that is considered positive for one gender may be viewed negatively when performed by another gender. For example, in a university environment, a male student who is confident, outspoken, and actively share his opinion during discussion may be seen as a good leader, responsible, or ambitious. However, when a female student demonstrates the same confidence and leadership qualities, she may sometimes be perceived as too aggressive, dominant, or difficult to work with. This shows that the issue is not the behavior itself, but the expectation and perception that people have based on gender. According to Krieger 2024, double standard can still exist even in societies that support gender equality because traditional social expectations continue to influence how people judge others. This means that although universities may provide equal opportunities, hidden biases can still appear through daily interaction among students. The article also explained that double standards are often maintained through social reaction. When individuals, especially women, behave differently from traditional expectation, they may experience social penalties such as negative judgment, exclusion, or reduced acceptance from their peers. For instance, a female student who is assertive and takes control in a group project might be labeled as controlling, while a male student showing the same behavior might be considered responsible or confident. This different reaction creates unfair pressure on students to behave according to gender expectation. Besides leaderships, double standard can also be seen in social behavior. Female students may face stronger judgment regarding their appearance, communication style, or personal choices. Meanwhile, similar behavior from male students may not receive the same criticism. This situation can affect students in several ways. Firstly, it may reduce confidence. When students feel that their actions are constantly judged differently, they may become afraid to express their opinion or participate actively in university activities. Secondly, double standards can limit student opportunities. Some students may avoid taking leadership roles, joining certain activities, or pursuing specific career paths because they feel those areas are not socially expected for their gender. In the long term, this can strengthen stereotypes and prevent students from reaching their full potential. A person's ability, skill, and personality should be the main factors considered rather than assumption based on gender. So I pass back to the moderator. Thank you.
However, Mr. Zikri, I have one more question for you. Do you have any idea on how university can reduce this issue?
So, first of all, universities should create more awareness about unconscious bias. Sometimes people do not realize that they judge others differently because of existing social expectation. And second of all, students and educators should evaluate each other based on performance, contribution, and ability instead of gender stereotypes. Leadership, confidence, and responsibility should be recognized as human qualities, not qualities belonging to only one gender. In conclusion, double standards in behavior are a hidden barrier to achieving true gender equality. Providing equal opportunities is important, but it is not enough if people are still judged differently based on gender expectation. Thank you.
Well, there is some interesting approach from your side. So maybe administrators should take notes from your initiative of also from Ms. QISTINA initiative. We can see here that gender equality in university is a complex issue that goes beyond simply providing equal access to education. It is about cultural experience, stereotype, and also things that we have normalized. We have explored how students may experience different starting points, how social expectation can influence course and career choices, how hidden biases may appear in classroom, and how the same behavior may sometimes be judged differently based on gender. So before we conclude, I would like to ask each of our panelists one final question. So based on today's discussion, do you think university have already achieved gender equality, or are hidden biases still present? Maybe we can start with Mr. Ramzi.
All right. Based on our discussion today, I think universities have not achieved true gender equality yet. Hidden bias are definitely still present. On the outside, it looks fair because anyone can register for university, but on the inside, there are still invisible barriers. Female students are still struggling with heavy house chores and family expectations at home, which makes them come late to class and lose their study time. Yeah.
Okay, based on my opinion on our discussion today, universities have not achieved true gender equality. While the doors are wide open for everyone, hidden biases and cultural stereotypes still heavily dictate students' choice of study. Universities are essentially masking a long-standing cultural bias behind the facade of equal opportunities.
I think gender equality in universities is not fully achieved yet because hidden bias still exists.
So based on our discussion just now and connected with my point, like I say, although university may provide equal opportunities, hidden biases can still appear through daily interaction among students.
Thank you to all of our panelists for sharing your valuable perspective. So from today's discussion, we can understand that gender equality in university is not only about having equal access to education. It is also involved about ensuring that students experience fairness in opportunity, recognition, participation, and also support. While universities have made a progress through policies and initiatives, achieving true equality requires continuous awareness and effort from institutions, educators, and also students. Ultimately, this will create a gender equal university environment that requires us to question existing practices and ensure that everyone has the opportunity to succeed regardless of gender. Maybe we can start discarding all those stereotypes in order for a better environment of studies. So that's all from us today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.